Welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to talk about something that I really think is cool, and that is velocity stacks. How do they stack up on the Chassis Dyno, and what is the end result at the drag strip? Stay tuned, you're going to find out. So way back when, almost 4 years ago, probably over 4 years ago now, I actually did a chassis dyno test with velocity stacks, checking the effects of running with and without to see what we could come up with. I think the results are going to speak to themselves, but let's go back into the archives and roll this footage, and then we will pick it up after the fact. So this is our test subject. These velocity stacks I found on eBay. NOS Mr. Gasket velocity stacks, still in the original boxes. Now get this, it didn't come with these filters. These filters are K&N, and I got those from Summit. But when I got these and pulled them out of the box, the paperwork said it was from 1976. It didn't even look like it had been out of the box. I mean, they were that pristine. So, you know, every once in a while you can still score a really good find on eBay. It's just rare. Alright, Tom, what's your guess?
Hard to say. It's going to depend all on what it does with the air filter.
I know. I'm kind of curious.
If it leans it out a little bit,
it's going to make
the filters might hurt it. It's going to take power.
Right. Because we already know the truck's running a little rich right now, so if it does that, I think you're onto something. So you heard it. Well, that's why we test. You know, you got to learn. Excited. Tom gives me that look. I know things are looking up. Okay. The orange line is the run that we just made. So we just picked up right at a little over 3 horsepower and 4 foot-pound of torque at the wheels by the velocity stack. And you can see the gains right there. The raw numbers.
Gold to green.
Yeah, the gold and the green, that's what you need to be comparing.
9 times out of 10, the filter always makes more power.
Say that one more time, a lot louder.
9 times out of 10, filter on a carburetor always makes more horsepower.
So you can see that it would be pretty easy to say that that is the end-all be-all. I think we wound up picking up 3 horsepower and about the same in foot-pounds of torque. But does it tell the entire story of what's going on there? You have to remember when you're doing dyno testing that you are in a static situation. The dyno's not lying to you. You're actually seeing what the dyno is recording, but when you go to the racetrack, it's an entirely different situation. You're dynamic, you're moving. You start out from 0 miles per hour and go up into 120, 130, 140, so on and so forth miles per hour. So what effect does that have on carburetors and velocity stacks as you're going down the track? So yeah, I could sit here and say that 3 horsepower is good. I could also say that it helped lean the carburetors out, and that's where the power gain come from. But let's look at these videos from the drag strip, and then I will tell you the surprising results. I think it's important to note the combination that the velocity stack test was done on. 393 cubic inch small block Ford Windsor with a set of cylinder heads at DV ported, flowed 315 CFM at 625 lift, had a moderate size solid roller, and it was a great street driving combination. 10.5 to 1 compression. I drove this truck everywhere with this engine until a connected rod exited stage left. That's another story for another day. But what did I learn once I took the truck to the track and ran it with and without the velocity stacks? Pretty simple answer here. The truck was much faster with the velocity stacks on. You may say, well, what does that equate to power-wise? Well, I can tell you first-hand experience that the 3 horsepower that I gained on the Chassis Dyno would be very negligible in ET results. I mean, that's variation in what you would see between run to run in a dyno pool, just being honest with you. So with that being said, the 1/10.5 is very tangible, and that represents a much more sizable increase in power than one might think, especially at that speed. So why is this? You have to remember that as the vehicle is moving down the track, air is coming across the carburetor. Well, you have to have a depression of air for the fuel to actually pull out of the booster into the engine. So that's just the physics of a carburetor. But as air moves across it, guess what happens? It almost develops a siphoning effect that goes across it where the fuel tries to come the other way. If you want to learn more about this term called booster buffeting, I highly suggest that you get DV's book, as he is the only one that I've ever seen reference this phenomenon by this name. You can see it in the book here that I'm putting a picture in. With that being said, booster buffeting is a very real thing. And that is why most of the time, I would say 99.9% of the time, when you have a carburetor running in the airstream, it will always be faster if you have an air filter on top of it. Because what happens is as the air is being forced into the filter, it slows down and it has a chance for the carburetor to actually meter the fuel properly as it's going down the track. Something to think about. So that tells me that maybe back in the 1950s and 60s, they just wanted to look cool, but maybe they didn't understand why they were running them. But nevertheless, they worked. And so that's why these parts here have stood the test of time, even when the critics say that they don't work. Just that simple. So until next time, this is Andy from Unity Motorsports Garage. I will catch you later.